What did Laos do either? It's just like, it doesn't matter. He's just bullying smaller countries, I think.
Just the last hour, we got the...
He's literally he's bullying smaller, like not smaller countries necessarily, but poorer countries in an effort to make himself feel powerful, I think. Because a lot of the countries that are mentioned in that initial list were ones that people were making jokes about, because it's like, what kind of trade surplus could you make up for with Myanmar? Like,
let's begin in Washington with...
It's tariff time. Hey, guys, remember when our big, beautiful boy, Donald, said he was going to tariff everybody on the day of liberation, and then the markets took a nosedive because he was just like doing a tactical nuclear first strike on all global trade for no reason other than the fact that he wanted to molest the money. And then he slowly had to scale it back. But in the process of scaling it back, he also simultaneously kept claiming that he was going to have 90 days and 90 deals that his administration was claiming that they were doing hundreds of deals. If not, they were doing more tariffs deals than there are actual countries on the planet. Okay? Like, Donald Trump literally came out and was like, we're doing 250 deals. It's like, there's not that many countries. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, no, we're doing 300 deals. And it turned out that there weren't any 200, 300 deals. Okay? That was not happening at all. And I told you at the time, I was like, this is not going to happen. Well, July 9th is the deadline for the 90 days, 90 deals. And now the Trump administration is going to start releasing letters on some of these countries that haven't come to the table, I guess. Okay? And he's also announcing some of the tariffs that are going through regardless. Here it is.
With latest news on the tariff front, and Megan Castella has the details. Megan, we had heard things were a little contentious with the Japanese, which was supposed to be one of the first deals announced, and now this.
Yes, now this, Kelly. The president did post overnight on Truth Social that he would start sending these letters at noon today, telling countries what their exports would face to send them into the U.S. And now just...
Dude, that's so funny. Here is the latest list of countries President Trump has sent letters to in the tariff rate he says he will face, that they will face on August 1st if a deal isn't made. So he pushed it back. He pushed a new deadline. Now it's August 1st. It's no longer July 9th. Laos, 40%. Myanmar, 40%. Thailand, 36%. Cambodia, 36%. Bangladesh, 35%. Serbia, 35%. Indonesia, 32%. South Africa, 30%. Bosnia, 30%. South Korea, 25%. Malaysia, 25%. Japan, 25%. Kazakhstan, 25%. And Tunisia, 25%. What the is Laos supposed to do? What is Myanmar supposed to do? Incredibly stupid. And I thought they had locked down something with Japan. China is at 30% and Vietnam now 20% for consoles. Given these are likely to be stable figures for the rest of the year, lol, gaming hardware manufacturers will be making a final decision on whether/how to best pass on additional costs to consumers soon. What I can say with 100% certainty is that these tariffs will increase import costs for U.S. businesses, so Americans will feel the cost of everything going up across the board. And even if there is no individual increase on X gaming item today, it'll be factored in for new SKUs or hardware releases, etc. Also, for anyone wondering, the new percentage values means there is zero chance for that Xbox, PlayStation, Asus, etc. reduces price back to levels from earlier this year, prior to some of the price hikes we saw. He's over the gamers, man. Bangladesh, what the f did we do? Yeah. What did Laos do either? It's just like, it doesn't matter. He's just bullying smaller countries, I think.
Just the last hour, we got the...
He's literally bullying smaller, like not smaller countries necessarily, but poorer countries in an effort to make himself feel powerful, I think. Because a lot of the countries that are mentioned in that initial list were ones that people were making jokes about, because it's like, what kind of trade surplus could you make up for with Myanmar? Like, with what money will they purchase American goods? You know what I mean? It's akin to tariffing Penguin Island. Like, it makes no sense. What are they supposed to do? Purchase F-150s? And I think the real reason, or part of the reason why he's doing this, is because these are like BRICS plus countries, like countries that are aligned with China in trade. So I think he's just trying to punish them as best as possible. Yeah, they do trade with China and a part of the Belt and Road. He wants to decouple them. Yeah.
The first of those, the president posted full letters on Truth Social that he says he sent to the leader.
But there are so many other countries that he could do There are so many other countries he could do that to, but he's not really, because it's a little different to do it with like Brazil as opposed to Myanmar, which goes back to my point initially, which is it's not necessarily just about trade surplus, it's about who he can bully.
Of Japan and South Korea. Very long letters here, but some top line details to get into. These would be 25% tariffs on all Japanese and South Korean exports into the U.S. effective on August 1st, on top of any tariffs that are already in place or that are forthcoming in terms of the sectoral tariffs. He also said any retaliation would lead to a commensurate increase in the tariff rate, meaning if they retaliate, he's going to lift this tariff rate even further. Trump also said that he would consider an adjustment if countries do open their markets. And that's the key, Kelly, is that there is no certainty here. He goes on to say, hinting at further changes, saying, quote, these tariffs may be modified upwards or downwards depending on our relationship with your country. So interesting there that while the markets and investors have been craving certainty, they're not exactly getting it with this letter. And Kelly, the way I would sort of characterize this, even though we are seeing market reaction here, is just to remember that what this is essentially doing is kicking back in the reciprocal rates for these two countries that were announced on April 2nd. South Korea was already seeing 25%. Japan was at 24%. The White House has been threatening for weeks if they didn't strike a deal with these countries, we'd see those rates kick back in on.
What happened? I thought he dealt with Japan first and foremost. I thought that was the number one country that he dealt with. Interesting.
July 9th.
Japan about to sell off that American debt that they own.
Now that date changes to August 1st. But otherwise, everything else pretty much holds the same. So despite all the bluster in these letters, we are seeing them follow through on that threat, just delaying down the road a little bit further. Kelly?
It was interesting to hear the Treasury Secretary, Megan, who also talked about effectively how with 100 countries that are too small to really affect the trade deficit that much, we may not have the capacity to even do any deals. And I wonder what that means.
Yes, that's going to be interesting. That's where I think you'll just see these blanket tariffs have to take effect because there isn't enough there. There isn't enough bandwidth to sort of negotiate deals. And they have said from the beginning that they're focused on something like the top 15 to 18 largest trading partners. It would be significant if we suddenly see huge tariffs imposed on very small countries. It's headline worthy and it doesn't bode well for certainty and for the path forward. But I would also say that outside of the top 15 or 18 markets, we're not getting a ton coming in from those countries, but we would still see, importers having to pay those tariffs when they do import goods from whatever the country might be.
Yeah, I mean, you add it all up, we do seem to be tiptoeing back to the landscape that was initially set out for us on April 2nd. But Megan, the market's up like 15% since then.
Yeah, the market is not responding to the volatility because they just, I think, are operating on the notion that Donald Trump is going to do taco. He's going to chicken out. I mean, the very fact that he pushed the tariff limit past the initial deadline that he suggested from July 1st to August, or July 9th to August 1st, implies that he's just, I don't know, he's not going to shock people, I guess, or that's what they are. That is what they're waiting on.
Yes, that's really interesting, I think, is that so far there's been a lot of shrugging off of everything that we've seen so far. And I would say that's because things aren't in place yet. We continue to see these tariffs. And even though this looks a little bit like an escalation that he really means business, he has set these letters, they're doing it in conjunction with delaying the deadline from July 9th to August 1st. By doing that, they say it's not kicking the can down the road any further. Officials get defensive when you try to talk to them about that, but it does allow for more negotiation. So it means that even while the market is reacting today, they probably have one eye on that deadline and say this could very well change again between now and the end of the month.
All right, Megan, appreciate it very much. Megan Casella at the White House.
A lot that we still don't know, Brian, but we're learning more now. So 5 new letters were just posted on Truth Social announcing tariff rates set with 5 different trading partners. It was Laos, Myanmar, South Africa, Malaysia, and Kazakhstan. It's ranging from 25% to 40% are the new ranges of tariffs for all of these countries. Now, the letters, as far as we can tell, guys, are verbatim what we already saw sent to Japan and South Korea. So that means all of these tariff rates will be effective on August 1st, and all of them are subject to change, either higher or lower, depending on how negotiations are going. So once again, sort of kicking that deadline down the road and allowing for more talk here, even as these tariff rates are set. I'll also flag, guys, that in pretty much every case, these rates that the president is announcing are at the same level or lower than what he announced on April 2nd. So for Laos, for example, they're getting a 40% tariff on all exports they're sending to the U.S. On April 2nd, that was 48%. For Myanmar, they saw 40%. On April 2nd, that was 44%. Kazakhstan, 25% when it was 27%. So in many ways here, guys, a softer stance actually than we've been seeing for the last few weeks, both in terms of tariff rates so far and in terms of that deadline, kicking the can down the road just a little bit more. That's for now. We do expect something like 5 to 7 more letters throughout the day today. So we'll have to see what those look like.
I wonder, Megan, we're looking at these names, Myanmar, Laos, what else do we have? Kazakhstan. And then we had South Africa. And I was just looked at Kelly, and as you brought that up, I thought to myself, who is from South Africa originally? Elon Musk. And it just made me wonder.
What kind of financial association does Elon Musk have with South Africa, man? If anything, he wants to punish South Africa because of the ICJ genocide case.
Wonder if this was, you said kick the can, I wonder if this was a kick of a different kind, because South Africa doesn't have a lot in common with the other 4 nations that are now on this list. Don't have to respond. I'm just throwing that out there.
No.
It's an interesting ad at an interesting time.
It is obviously a much more developed economy than the other ones on this list. I don't know off the top of my head the amount of trade that we do with South Africa, but South Africa and Malaysia on this list are probably the largest trading partners of these 5, but they're not really our largest trading partners. I would say, though, Brian, that while, yes, it is coming at an interesting time, there were about 60 trading partners, remember, that got these so-called higher rates back in April. And for South Africa, seeing a 30% tariff now, that's exactly what the president did announce back in April. So actually no change.
If anything, their connective tissue is bricks.
Welcome back. So